So children in our school on average across the service miss about 15 months of school before they enter our service.
So they've been out of school for 15 months straight?
On average, yeah. Due to either behaviour issues, exclusions, problems at home, health issues, anxiety, like too anxious to leave the house.
And who enrolls these students?
So they will have been referred to by either a social worker, the local authority, mostly the local authority. Sometimes like educational psychologists and stuff get involved. But yeah, it's quite a lengthy process.
Wow. And then so for the children that come to this school, have they already been diagnosed with?
So not all of them are neurodivergent in the aspect of like ADHD, autism, things like. A lot of them do have diagnoses, but some of them, their neurodivergence is from trauma, because a certain level of trauma before a certain age has a physical impact on your brain development. So it actually slows down the development of your prefrontal cortex. Your amygdala becomes heightened because your amygdala is your like prehistoric brain. So it takes charge of things like fight or flight mode. So what happens with children who have experienced acute levels of stress or toxic stress is that their hormones in their amygdala, they're constantly sky high. So it takes a lot more to bring them back down to baseline level, and eventually that baseline level shifts. So what happens is, if we've all got a baseline level of here and it takes a certain amount of dysregulation to get us to actually physically act out and be triggered, but also because we have self-soothing strategies and techniques that our parents have taught us or we've learned over time, we can bring ourselves back down below that threshold. But when you're constantly having that amygdala activation, the threshold, it lowers. So it takes less and less to trigger you, because you've already got that level of stress hormone cortisol in your system. So it takes a lot less to trigger these children and a lot more to soothe them. So what happens is they become dysregulated over really seemingly small things. And that becomes unmanageable. So in a mainstream school setting, child who, because of maybe their ADHD or whatever, and additionally with their trauma and the stress that they're going through, let's say they're not able to sit still and they've been told to sit still, and now they're upset and now they're being told to leave the classroom, and it's going to escalate. They're going to get dysregulated. They're going to maybe physically act out, because we all know from being a child, when you're a child, you somatically feel emotions. Like we were talking about your ecstatic dance thing, you need to move. When you're angry, you need to stomp. You'll see toddlers stomping, throwing themselves on the floor, because that's the release of those hormones and those emotions. That's why it's so important to cry, because when you have that build up of cortisol, that stress hormone, it can make you physically sick. Because that fight or flight mode, what it is, it's preparing your body for survival. But because of the world that we live in nowadays, the threats are confusing to our brain. The world is moving at so much of a faster pace that our brain can evolve.
We're always on a fight.
We're always in fight or flight mode. Because something that used to be, I need to be anxious or scared because there might be a tiger or a lion nearby, has now become, I haven't responded to my emails. Because the threats have changed. So the things that get us into fight or flight mode confuse us now, and we don't even know why we're upset half the time.
And also now coffee, people having coffee anxiety all the time.
Really, changing your physiological responses to things. Your heart rate's increasing. And if you're not self-aware, or you don't have very good like vestibular senses or like inward looking, like as in knowing your body, you can think, what's wrong with me? But realizing you're not, like you're saying, I think I need a coffee, like I'm not, and realize you're actually feeding that anxiety with that caffeine and making it worse if you're not aware of these things. Do you know what I mean? So like, not just children, but we do it to ourselves all the time.
Because it's now become so normal that people just don't realize it.
I mean, there's a really interesting video. He's a medical doctor. His name's Gabor Mate. He's a Hungarian fellow over in the States, and he was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 54, I believe. But for the longest time in his life, he was like, why am I not succeeding? Why am I not going to the places I want to be at? I want to be a a well-known author. I want to do all these things. I want to have a better relationship with my children. And it wasn't until he got diagnosed that he realized this is what was the problem. This is why I was losing my temper. This is why this was happening. That is why that was happening. And he does a lot of podcasts, videos, speeches, talks, lectures on the things that he's experienced. So he keeps one very interesting book he wrote is The Body Keeps Score.
Okay.
So it's talking about how our emotions and our bodies are linked and our minds and our bodies are linked and all of these things. But he has a really, really great video on YouTube. It's probably about no more than 10 minutes long. And it's called Addiction and Authenticity.
I think I've heard of that, actually.
And it is a beautiful video. I watch it. I wouldn't say I'm particularly addicted to anything, but I watch it in general because the message behind it is so meaningful. He talks about numbing. He talks about that need that we have to run away from things that are uncomfortable.
Right, yeah.
And he talks about how addiction is basically nothing more than a need for a hug.
You know what? It's funny you say that. So I have a client. She was an addict. I'll say she was an addict, like I think alcoholic, but she still calls herself. She's sober now. I think she's been sober 11 months. Something. Anyway, she says she's an addict. Yeah, she says she's an addict, and I said to her, and I was like, "No, you're not. Like not anymore." She goes, "No, I am." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "She's basically saying like it's." Basically you're born with some sort of like, basically if you're an addict you're forever an addict, but for example like she was an alcoholic but now she's moved on to doing something that she's addicted to, which is her business. So when she came out of the rehab, she went to start her own business, and that business is doing like this cosmetic business or things like that. She turned into 6-figure making business in 6 months. And and going back to the love bit of having one a hug, when it comes to her love life, she's always craving for love. Like when she meets someone new, she'll be so addicted to that person. She'll be addicted to them, things like that, and she just want to feel loved.
And that is like, from the people that I've met in my time on this planet and even my own personal experiences, I think we all have experienced it to some extent or some degree, that void or that lack and that wanting to fill it with something, you know, whether it be creativity, whether it be love, whether it be addiction. But I think everyone is on that kind of, I think it's normal part of the human condition to be on that search for what is the meaning of this life. Why am I here? What am I in this place for?
Your life purpose.
Your purpose. And I think for some people, I won't say everyone because I think some people are perfectly happy with it, but for some people that feeling of purposelessness is too much to bear, because am I here just to be a punching bag for others? Am I here just to make others feel better? Am I here to serve a purpose? Like, what am I here for? Do you know what I mean? And I think I can't personally speak, but I think for some people when they fall into addiction, or at least very much from what I understand, of what I've read and heard, it's to numb the pain. There's so much pain in this existence, and when you're not adequately supported, I think, you know, it is just like a big warm hug. You know, you don't think about anything, you forget about everything, and things seem okay for a while. It might be temporary, but it's okay for a while. And that's why, you know, I really understand people who, although, you know, it's not necessarily the best choice, who am I to judge? But, you know, when there are people out there on the streets and they are asking for money and people are like, oh, no, I don't want to give you money because you're going to spend it on drugs. If you're going to give you the money, first of all, you can't exactly stipulate what you're going to give it to them for. You're giving them the money. What they do with it, that's not on you. You're giving them the money.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't do that. If you're not going to give them the money, then tell them I'll buy you something. I'm not going to give you money. But anyway, I can't lie to you. When I was a kid, I did this thing called the challenge. It's kind of like Duke of Edinburgh. Yeah. And I did a big sleep out. So we slept outside in the streets for a night. And I shit you not, that shit was cold. I was only a teenager back then, but I can completely understand why someone who's going through whatever they've gone through to end up on the streets for a period of time would choose to buy drugs over food with the money that they have. I'm not saying that it's the best thing you would do to survive, but in terms of whatever they've got going on, that's going through their head. They haven't got a roof over their head. They haven't got a penny to their name. They've probably got a whole bunch of other problems. Plus, being addicted to something, they've got an itch as well. The only thing they want to do is just quiet their minds and not feel the pain that they're going through. Do you get what I mean? So they might buy drugs, yeah, but can you blame them?